All right, it's good to be live again. Uh, pa- 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 okay, sorry, we are a few minutes late to today's session. Uh, okay, okay, yeah. So I guess we are good. Yeah. All right. It's good to be here again. So, so sorry, we're a few minutes late to this session. So we're just gonna get started. So I'm excited to be here again. Um, so we had this is something we started. Sorry, excuse me. This is something we started doing um, just to just to have a practical session with teachers, talk about how to transform teaching and learning in a classroom using design thinking, of course, using the tool BayoGPT and all of that. Yeah, and I'm excited to do this again. This is Adebayo. Um, we believe strongly at EAZY-DIGI that is something powerful that we have built, and the African education community needs to be aware, needs to leverage this thing we've built, right, to transform the quality of teaching and learning in the classroom. What if you're connected, if you can hear me, can you please tell us where you're joining from? Tell us your name, tell us your name. What's your name? Where are you joining from? Just trying to check around. Let's see. Yeah, we're streaming live on LinkedIn and on YouTube. So you're welcome if you're joining us on LinkedIn, joining us on Facebook. You're very much welcome. Yeah, please tell us your name and let's know where you're joining from. All right. Let's see. Yeah, we're streaming live on LinkedIn. Okay, all right. Think we're good. Sounds like we're good. Join us on Facebook. You're very much welcome. All right. Sounds like we're good. Yeah. If you're joining on LinkedIn, let's know where you're joining from. Um, if you're joining on YouTube, um, yeah, put your name in the chat section, just so we can, because again, it's usually very interactive, right? Every time we do this, we make it very interactive, super interactive, right? And we do this live with teachers. All right. All right. Okay. Yeah. So again, you're joining from LinkedIn. Tell us where you're joining from. A beautiful evening here from Lagos, Nigeria. And I'm excited to be your host. Right. I'm excited to be your host. Yeah, Michael, thank you for joining. We have Michael from Nigeria. Thank you for your time. Yeah. Thank you for tuning in. Right. It's good to have you. Okay. So we're gonna get it started, right? So this is design thinking with BioGPT. So in this session, we drew down. Okay, I see someone just joined from YouTube. If you're joining, you just connected from YouTube. Tell us your name and where you're joining from, right? We'd like to connect with you, right? So I'll put my eyes on LinkedIn and also on YouTube at the same time, just to make sure that we don't miss the other things. Yeah. So Michael, how are you doing today? I hope you're having a restful weekend, Michael. Uh, yeah. Okay. Wow. Yeah, it's sweet to be here again. Yeah. All right. All right. So we're good. We're good, good, good. And we're just into this. So again, this is design thinking with BayoGPT. I mean, design thinking in K to 12 is something that um, is kind of like new, right? Which is one thing we are very big on at EAZY-DIGI, right? Um, we say that we're transforming education in Africa, um, and then the framework behind that we do that is design thinking, right? Agile thinking and future thinking, strongly design thinking, right? So we're very big on that. We believe so much that design thinking has the power, right, to transform education in Africa immensely, right? And that's why we keep preaching, we keep talking about it again and again and again and again and again. And here's the gist, right? Very simple. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for your response. Here's the gist, right? We consider K to 12 to be a pipeline, right? We believe in the pipeline perspective. So we consider K to 12 to be a pipeline that is serving a big purpose. I mean, a bigger purpose, beyond um, temporary things like, exams, those terminal exams and all kind of exams that I might have. We consider K-12 to be a pipeline of talent, right? And that perspective is not just personal, right? It's ideal, right? It's ideal. Every education stakeholder should accept that perspective, that K to 12 is a pipeline, a talent pipeline that is responsible for serving a bigger purpose, right? Which is the nation, which is the community, right? And so when we think that way, then the question we're asking ourselves is the pipeline being nurtured enough to ensure that when this talent, again, we don't see them as students, we see them as talent. Now, these perspectives are very important, right? Not seeing these kids as students, but as talent. When we begin to see them as talent, we begin to attach certain value to them, right? We begin to weigh and measure them. Because in Nigeria, for example, there's something we call GDP per capita, right? GDP per capita, that speaks to how productive one Nigerian is. And that's the same for every other country, right? And if you look at our GDP per capita, you understand why this perspective is even very important and very urgent, even now. Even now. So this thinking is critical for transforming society. Oh yeah, oh yeah, thank you, Ronaldo Lawrence. Yeah, I see that. Okay, so this thinking is even very, very, and thank you for joining the session, right? This thinking is very critical, right? So, so the pipeline perspective, seeing K to 12 as a pipeline, right? And then asking ourselves, if it's a pipeline indeed, right, is it strong, potent enough to serve the bigger society, right? And so one thing we're saying when we talk about design thinking is design thinking does that kind of equalization, right? It ensures that the atmosphere, right, in the bigger world, right, becomes what we have in our classrooms, right? It ensures that problem solving in the classroom looks like problem solving in the bigger world, right? In the Googles, in the Microsoft, right? In such kind of places, right? Because there's that gap. There's that gap. We need the atmosphere of your reality to prepare for that reality, right? The pipeline needs to be prepared, right, strongly and more so, which is why we bring in design thinking into the K to 12 space. And we're saying we need to embrace design thinking. We need to think, work, solve problem like it happens in the workplace, in the industries. If we don't, we won't expose these kids, right, to the complexities, right, that the bigger world out there is asking for, right? They need to understand it. They need to be familiar with these complexities, right? So by the time they interface, right, they are equipped, right? There's confidence, right? And like I said, just taking Nigeria as a case study, GDP per capita is one metric, right, that further validates the pipeline perspective as we look at K to 12 that way, right? So That's all we are talking. Just thinking about EasyDigi and the purpose behind everything we do. That's the thinking, right? These numbers are things we see every day, and so we are motivated. We are driven by these numbers and how we can close the gap. All right. So last week we had. Last 2 weeks. So this program happens bi-weekly, every 2 weeks, right? So uh, fundamentally, to get started, we need to establish the philosophy here that every topic in every subject has a connection with a need or a problem in the society, right? So when it comes to design thinking in K to 12, right, the foundational philosophy is that every topic in every subject has a connection with a need or a problem in the society, right? If you are there, if you can hear me, can you please type it in the chat section, right? So this statement is very important, right? And we believe strongly that it is something that everyone should hold strongly, right? So if you're connected, if you can hear me, can you please type in the chat section, please? Every topic in every subject has a connection with a need in the society. Please type it in the chat section. It's very important. If you type it, we love you. Yeah, because that statement is so important to us. It's so important. It's the foundational philosophy behind everything we do, right? We want to raise problem solvers, we want to raise creators, right? When you see, numbers like 11 million young Africans enter the market annually, and only about 4 million formal jobs are created, you see the gap that Africa urgently needs creators, right? Nigeria urgently needs creators. Recently on LinkedIn, I shared a number of, I said a number of things, right? From the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, all of those data. We're always sharing this data. They are critical, right? And we are moving, but we are data driven. We are not just, we are driven by data. These data points are critical. We cannot ignore them. They're very critical, right? Yeah. So, every topic and every subject has a connection with a need in the society, right? And that's one thing we're trying to do here, right? So we are equipping teachers. Yeah. Every topic in every subject, yeah, has a connection with a need in the society. So you can see the text rolling on the screen. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Renato. You can see the text rolling on the screen, right? You find it there. Every topic in every subject has a connection with a need in the society. All right. Yeah. And on that premise, we move into the business of the day. Now, in every session, it's a workshop, right? Shortly, I'm going to open BayoGPT. We're going to pick a topic and we're going to see how it happens. When we say that every topic in every subject has a connection with a need in the society, how does that practically come to be? How does that practically happen, right? So we're going to see how that practically happens, right? We'll do a practical session and you see what that looks like, right? Before we get into that, there's something very significant, right, which is connected to this conversation that I need to quickly strike. Right. So I'll share my slides, I'll say a few things, and then we'll get into the conversation. Right. Again, if you are joining us on LinkedIn, please tell us where you're joining from. Tell us where you're connecting from. We'd love to meet you. Tell us your name and where you're joining from, what country you're joining from. I'd like to meet you. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing this evening. I promise you, you're going to enjoy this. I promise you, it's going to worth your time. Um, okay, so let me try to share my screen and just quickly run you through this, and then we move into BioGPT. Right? Invite your friend. You can repost the event on LinkedIn, or you can just share the link with someone. Let them join. They're gonna have a nice time. Actually, uh, so where is it? Oh, design thinking. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen shortly. Yeah. All right. Yeah, again, if you're joining on LinkedIn, you're joining on YouTube, please tell us where you're joining from. Tell us your name and tell us where you're joining from. We'd like to meet you. Tell us your name and tell us where you're joining from. Tell us your name and tell us where you're joining from. We'd like to meet with you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining. So let's get into it. Get into it, right? So the first thing you see here, yeah, every topic and every subject can be connected with a need or problem in the society, right? We talked about that last week. Now, there's something I need to say as we get into the discussion for today, right? And then you find this question on the screen, right? Um, what if school is the answer to the social media crisis plaguing the alpha generation today, right? Because again, one of the things we are seeing today, right? Because design thinking is about problem solving, right? Design thinking is about problem solving, right? And in solving the problem, we create things, right? We create solutions, right? Um, one of the things that we have seen, one of the problems that we have seen in the K to 12 space today, right, is the impact of social media on learning, right? So, I mean, globally, there's a lot of conversation ongoing, right? There's a lot of conversation. It's so loud right now about social media. I think last week, no, this week, right? This week, Mark Zuckerberg still had to attend to a lawsuit. I've forgotten the location, right? And it was being drilled, and there were questions and stuff and things like that, all right? So, and it's been happening, all right? There's a lot going on there, all right? But you see, I like to look at this in a very when I say there's a lot, I mean there's a lot, right? There's a lot, right? We are very big on research, so we see these things every day, right? There's a lot going on as regards social media, as regards how it's affecting learning, right? And what that looks like. But you see, let's look at it from a different perspective. Again, please, if you're joining from LinkedIn, tell us your name, tell us where you're joining from. We'd like to meet you, right? I ask a question here, and I say, what if school is the answer to the social media crisis plaguing the alpha generation today? What if? Think about that one moment. What if? And the question in your mind is what is it talking about? What is it talking about? All right. Here is what I'm talking about. Right. If you look at the word social media as it were, right, let's try to do a breakdown. Right. It's a combination of two words, like I always say, right? Social and media, right? So social and media, right? And sounds like society, right? And then there's a medium, right, that connects to society, right? So social media is just basically a medium of connecting people, right, to the society. That's what social media is. If you think about TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all they are doing is connecting us to the society. And they have discovered, or I mean, they discovered that we are social beings, right? We are social beings. And I'm going to get into that. We all are social beings, right? And we crave connection. We are social beings and we crave connection. That is the truth. That is the truth. We crave connection, right? And so understanding the fact that social media is all about connecting people with the society, because there can be vacuum. That there can be a vacuum, right? As humans, we always crave for that connection, right? The kids that you see jumping on social media, right, or and being affected wrong and stuff like that. What is happening is that there is a vacuum, right? These are young people that are craving for connection. They are craving for connection. Please, if you can hear me, if you're still there, can you please type in the chat section connection? Type connection. Connection. We believe at EAZY-DIGI that we have a message for the African education community. This message is very timely, this message is very urgent, and this message is critical, right? Um, and I hope that thousands of educators get to listen to this session today and get to understand what is going on. All right. So what you see is that we are social beings, right? And so we crave for connection. Again, if you can hear me, can you please type in the comment section connection? We crave for connection, right? And so the gap is there, right? Social media came up to fill that gap, right? Came up to fill that gap, right? And so what you will see is the fact that although social media as well, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, it appears, as though they are not censored and they are not safe environment to create that kind of connection. But one thing we need to see there is that there's a need. There's a need although the need is being met, right, not in a safe way. And that's why school, your classroom, our classrooms, has the opportunity, all right, to become a safer social media sort of, right, that does the job of connecting this generation, this alpha generation, all right, to society. Thank you, Raphael Joy. Thank you for joining. Yeah, thank you. So school has the potential to become the safer social media that connects these kids to the society, right? Because they have a need, and that need is called it's one of their core needs. One of the core needs of the alpha generation is connection. When teachers understand this, right, your job will be sweatless. If you understand that this generation, right, especially if you work with kids from middle school, year seven and the likes, if you understand that they have a critical need, which is connection, it will change everything for you and the way you teach. So our classrooms can begin to offer that connection. When our classrooms begin to offer that connection, this generation, they begin to learn how to connect with their society. Now, this is something that is so missing, right? Either to there's been no manual that teaches them how to connect with the society. And if you think about the society, what do you find in the society? You find stories, you find people, you find events, you find happenings, you find happenings around industries. And every time you go to TikTok or Facebook, these are the things that these are the things that people are connecting with. Stories. They are connecting with people and personalities. They are connecting with events. They are connecting with happenings, right? Across industries. These are the things in the society, right? And so the social media, Facebook and the likes have created an opportunity for us to connect. But I'm saying here that the classroom can create the same experience in a censored and in a safe way, right? And so what happens is the alpha generation, these kids, they are learning how to connect with the society in a safe way, right? And as that is happening, what you then see again is that they are right because in the classroom context, right, you are not connecting them to what is negative, right? In the classroom context, it is censored, it is safe, right? So they are connecting with the right content, with the right people, with the right stories, with the right events, with the right happenings, right? Because the environment is now different. It's the classroom, it's now censored, it's safe. And because that is the connection that is happening on that journey, some of them will find their voice because they get to see people, right, that figure that mirror their potentials and their passion. They get to see people, right, that are currently exhibiting things that they're excited about. They get to see people that are exhibiting their passion, right? They get inspired, right? There is inspiration in that context, right? So I'm saying that school has a role to play in dealing with this social media crisis by becoming a safer, a sensor social media for the alpha generation. And that's very powerful. And that means that in the school environment, we cannot only we cannot only just focus on textbooks, on notebooks. Those things cannot connect them to the society, right? So there's a balance that we need to strike here, a balance between what they have to learn week on week and stuff like that, and connecting them with society. And that balance is possible. They can be learning addition, and yet they are strongly connected to the society. Don't forget our foundational philosophy that every topic in every subject has a connection with a need in the society, right? They can be learning friction in science, in physics, and yet they are still connected to the society, right? Don't forget. So that connection is a need that K to 12 has to meet. And the more we meet that need and we do that very well, the more their cravings, the more their hunger, right, for connection on the wrong pathway begins to reduce because we have now set them on the right path. That is how they are going to find their purpose, right? That is how they will find their purpose, right? So as the world is changing, these things are happening. And it's important for our classrooms. There has to be a repositioning in our classrooms, right? I believe strongly that our classrooms can become a safer social media for the alpha generation if only we answer the call to make our classrooms the place that connects these learners to the society. Remember, we are all social beings. They are social beings. They want to be connected, right? But if every time they're in the classroom, what you are connecting them with is textbook, notebook, there is no connection. There is no connection. There is no connection, right? There is no connection. Especially if you're working with kids from middle school, uh, it is very critical that you're offering them that connection. And I'm going to say this, there is an unseen battle, right? Especially for teachers that work with kids in secondary school, right? You need to understand the fact that you are competing with social media. That's just the truth, right? If you're a teacher, you are competing with social media, right? These platforms, they are rewiring the mind of these kids. They are rewiring how they think, right? It's a social engineering, right? Sort of. And so, their attention, especially TikTok, their attention span and all it's reducing because of their exposure to these kind of platforms, right? But again, if we can begin to create the safer social media, right, they can begin to understand that, oh, not only short form content is the best. By the time we begin to engage them on the right path, right, we expose them to long form content and they begin to build the resilience, right, that is required to stay, even when the content is long form and not just short form like they are used to on social media, right? So this is an assignment. This is something that we have to embrace and that we really have to work on, right? We need to make connection possible, right? We need to make connection possible. And like I always ask teachers, if your learners have 5 minutes to spare, would they rather spend it on social media or they will spend it with you? Right? So there's an unseen battle. So as a teacher, understand the fact that you have a responsibility, all right, to create an atmosphere in your classroom that offers your learners that connection, such that if they have to choose 5 minutes between social media and you, they'll go for you. They'll go for you, right? Very critical. I mean, if you are joining the call, and you're still there, again, please, can you type connection, 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 right? That's very critical. Yeah. So that's the first thing we're starting today on that note, right? Establishing the fact that, you know, our schools, our classrooms can become a safer social media, right? By offering learners the connection that they need, right? By offering them that connection, by offering them that connection. I always like to give a very practical example, right? You know, uh, it's just, I talk about verbs, right? And by the way, let me just get into BayoGPT, right? And let's see how that connection is possible, right? How that connection. So what we're seeing right now is that in the school environment, our job is different. Our calling right now is different, especially because of how the society is changing, right? In a time where expertise is now a commodity, where cognition is almost becoming a commodity, where knowledge is not, we have to change how we engage. The rule of engagement has to change in our classrooms. If we will not lose respect before these learners, and if we will not lose value, if our classrooms will not become deplorable, and if our classrooms will not lose value before this generation, right, we need to upgrade what we are offering in our classrooms, right? We need to be able to we must be able to compete with social media, with Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok right there in our classroom. It's very possible, very possible, right? So it begins with that thinking that every topic and every subject has a connection with a need in the society. So the first question you want to ask yourself is, what is the connection between this topic I want to teach this week and a need in a society? Or is the connection? So let me stop sharing this and let me take you to BioGPT, and then let's do something practical. So as always, what do we do? Right? I'm going to ask someone on the call, right? Give me a topic in a subject for a class, right? Yeah. Like I've said before, every topic in every subject has a connection with a need in society. So we're going to practically see what that looks like, right? That's what that looks like, and then we're going to we're going to test that out with BioGPT. Let's see. Yeah, thank you, Joy Rafa, for staying. Michael, I hope you're still there. I hope you're still there. I like to hear from you. So I'll go to BioGPT now and let's see what's happening there. All right. So Joy or Michael, please you can give me a topic. Give me a topic in a subject. Come on, BioGPT now. Give me a topic in a subject, and let's see how that transformation happens. Right. What subject do you want? Let's go, let's go, let's go. Have my eyes on that room. I'm waiting. What subject are we looking at? Anyone can supply the subject. Anyone. Joy, you can go. Michael, you can go. What subject do you want us to focus on? I'm waiting for your response. So this is going to be very interactive and it's going to be fun. Yeah. What subject do we focus on? It could be math, it could be any subject, any subject. Let's see practically how that connection happens, right? Because this connection is very critical. Okay. Okay. I'm patiently waiting for the subject, for the topic, and for the class. Yeah, but you can just start with the subject. Let's just go step by step that way, so we can make progress. Okay. Yeah. Patiently waiting, waiting for the subject so that we can push. So that we can push. Anyone. What's the subject you want us to focus on? Okay. I'm also looking at the time. Let me see. Do we have a response from YouTube? Um, let's do this quickly. We are pressed for time. Um, feel free to mention the subject you want us to focus on. Okay, creative writing, composition, a book, awesome. So we're focusing on creative writing, right? So I'm going to enter this here. Creative writing, creative writing. Thank you, Joy. Thank you for your response. Right. So we're focusing on creative writing, and then the topic is composition, a book I read. So take note of that. Composition, uh, a book I read. So I'm following your lead, Joy. Right. And what class are we looking at here? What class are we looking at here? What class are we looking at? What class? So the subject, the topic, the class, you know, and another question there would be, what's the context? Is it urban or is it rural? And is it urban with technology or without technology? Is it rural with technology or without technology? Yeah, because we have to factor in the environment of the learners into what we're designing, all right, so that the experience in itself is meaningful, right, and can just connect with their society. Okay, so Joy gave us a topic, right, and we're running with that. Joy talked about creative writing, right, and we're running with that, and then we are focusing on composition, right, book I read, and then we are talking about yeah, I'm waiting for Joy to supply, the class, right? Let's know the class, then tell us whether it's urban or rural with technology, right? So while I'm waiting for Joy's response, right? Remember what we have established today, that in our classrooms is very important that we can connect our learners to the society, right? It's very important. And how do you achieve that connection? That connection happens through the content and the learning experiences. Year two, thank you, that's noted. That connection happens through the content and the learning experiences that you offer your learners. So what duration? 40, 45, 50, or 60 minutes, right? So that connection, it happens through two things, right? The tools for the connection, the content, and the learning experience, right? That is how we establish the connection, right? That is how. And when we say content, what we are saying in that regard, right, is that we need to go beyond just the textbook, right? That's what we like to call content augmentation, right? CA, content augmentation, right? We need to augment our content in K to 12, right? So that it's not just the challenge with our textbooks is that our textbooks are not inspirational, they are not alive. People don't read these textbooks and get ideas on what to do in society, right? It doesn't happen. The goal of the textbook is very convergent, right? Very convergent. And even on a cognitive level, right? It's low level, right? It's asking for a lot of lower order thinking, right? Our textbooks are majorly not wired to promote or to nurture higher order thinking. They are wired to promote a lot of lower order thinking, right? That's what you see there, right? And so we need to do what is called content augmentation. We are talking about how to connect your learners with the society, right? That while they are learning in a connected atmosphere. And we are saying that content as one arm, right? As one tool is critical. And when we say content, we are talking about content augmentation, right? So it's about going beyond content and embellishing your content with the right context, right? So the question is, what context can you add to your content to make it come alive, right? I'll give you an example, right? For example, you're talking about statistics, right? And a topic like mode, media mode, right? And then I bring an article from TechPoint, right? Talking about boat ride, right? And talking about where they had where they've had the highest number of rides, right, across the year, right? The particular location where they had the highest number of ride, and you know what led to that number, right? And then we are looking at the numbers across the various locations, right? Urban, thank you. So Joy, is it urban with technology or without technology? And also, how long is the session? Is it 45 minutes or 40 minutes? I'm waiting for your response, Joy. Thank you. So, and then we're talking about mode, right? Yeah, sorry, I'm juggling many things, but I hope you are enjoying this. I hope this is adding value to you, right? And then, so I'm talking about content augmentation, right? And I'm saying how that happens is by embellishing your content with the right context, right? And I'm trying to give an example, right? But you see, for you to do this successfully, you have to invest in what I call your context mastery, right? Context mastery speaks to your level of awareness, the level of awareness about what is going on in the society, and now that connects with what you do in your classroom. We call it context mastery, right? So if you don't invest in your context mastery, you'll be helpless. You won't know how to connect the topic. You won't be able to find the right context to embellish your content with, right? So you have to work on your context mastery, right, by reading these platforms, World Economic Forum, Forbes, Punch, all these platforms, media platforms, by following the news, by reading updates. And you need to do it, and you are doing it because that is the only way, because you cannot connect them to society you don't understand, right? Being very active on Instagram and following these platforms, these companies, following them on Instagram. They're all on this. Google is on Instagram, Microsoft is on Instagram, Forbes, every company in Nigeria, most of them, the big ones, they're on Instagram. They are saying things every day. They are giving reports, they are sharing insight. All of these things, they are what enriches your context mastery. So when we are talking about the skill set of teachers in this era, one of your core skills has to be what we call context mastery. It's very important. Is very important. Your context mastery, right? And so when you invest in your context mastery, you are able to, yeah, you are able to properly connect your learners with the society, right? You can do content augmentation because you have context mastery, right? So I just talked about both the article, and I bring that. So I am not only the only thing I'm presenting to my learners is not just the content from the textbook or what I copy from Google, or just no, it goes beyond that. It is now content plus context. And as you do that, You are able to offer your learners that. That is fundamentally how we connect our learners to the society, right? And so what happens is that it makes sense to them, right? 45 minutes. Thank you, Joy. Um, Urban with technology. Yeah, Joy, I'm following you. Urban with technology, and then next step, right? So, Joy, can you choose 2 to 3 skills that you want your learners to build via this learning experience, right? What skills you, because you see in this zone, right? Like I said, if you follow it from the beginning, we see K to 12 as a pipeline. It's a pipeline, and we see your learners as talent. We don't see them as students. They are not students, they are talent. They are not students, they are talent. And so, because they are talent, we view them from the lens of economic value. What is the economic value of every child in your classroom? Like, how much can they add to the economy? Right? We see them as talent. And because we see them as talent, the question we're asking ourselves is that are we offering them the skills, right, that makes them valuable to their society? Right? So at this stage of the design on BioGPT, we're talking about skills. So what skills do you want your learners to learn, to build by going through this experience? Right? Of course, for schools, right, we believe that schools should have like a skill set based on their vision, right? So every school should have like a skill set based on their vision and based on what the society is asking for. Every school should have like 4 to 5 skill sets that defines what learning is all about in that environment, right? There has to be a skill set. So that means when learners are leaving your school environment, they are living with that skill set, right? Beyond the report card and those, they are living with that skill set. And that is something that will be valuable for life, right? You are giving them that's a lifetime investment, a lifetime investment, right? Because they are living with skill sets that have real value in the society, right? So right from K to 12, they are valuable to society because they are building these skills, right? And all of these skills you have on this list, based on research, these are skills that are critical. These are skills that are very important, right? So Joy, while I'm speaking, I'll be looking forward to your response on the skills you want to focus on. So 2 to 3 skills is enough for the design to be very rich, so that it is targeted, right? So if it's too much, you dilute the experience, right? But when it is 2 to 3, it is targeted, and you can be sure that the experience will actually produce the skills, right? So Joy, I'm waiting for your response, right? Yes. So BioGPT is all about training learners to build relevant and in-demand skills, right? You see, I believe strongly that we are in a time where the calling of teachers is not just to teach. I don't believe in subject teaching, right? When you say you are a math teacher, you are an English teacher, because in this era, AI has the capacity to teach those things better than you can, right? That's the truth. AI has the capacity to teach those things better than you can. It's not arguable. We can't argue it, right? So subject teaching is not the big deal anymore, right? The question is, can you teach your learners skills? Can you teach them skills, right? Can you teach them skills, right? So smart teachers are designing for skills development. Can you teach them skills? Can you? It's not about content because content is now available. In fact, AI has make it super easy, right? Because of the level of interactivity. And all. So there has to be a shift. Don't leave that zone. Don't stay there. Don't let it not be that. Well, to I say, is that math teacher. He can teach maths very well. Right? You can't be competing with technology on that ground. No, no. So we need to ask ourselves, what do we need to give to technology, and what do we need to focus on? All right, because it's very important. If technology can do it, let's allow technology to do it. Let's focus on what is unique to us as humans that we can bring to the table. Right. So Joy, I'm still waiting for you to choose the skills you want, you would like to focus on. Right. You can just choose 2 to 3 on what's on the screen. Right. So subject teaching, we have to move with. You see, I'm an education futurist. Right. And I know what I'm saying. I know what I'm saying. I know what I see every day. Right. And I know what I'm saying. Right. You cannot be a subject teacher. Right. Yeah. Sorry, please. Can I get the skills? Yeah. They're on the screen. Just look at the screen. There's analytical thinking, creative thinking, Yeah, just choose from the list. Choose two to three from what you have on the screen. You can choose two to three from what you have on the screen, right? So yeah, the skills you need to build now is context mastery, right? That's very important. Your context mastery is going to be is one of the key skills that teachers must have in the classroom today. It's context mastery. Very important. Very important. Right. So you are going beyond the teacher, you are becoming a learning designer. That's what we're talking about. At EasyDigi, we believe strongly that teachers have to evolve. Teachers have to become learning designers. What we need in our schools today is not teachers. We need learning designers, people that are trained to offer, to design, and implement learning experiences that can build learners who are valuable to the society, right? The era of subject teaching and those things, they are is gone. Is gone, right? AI can do that and even so well. I mean, what we are seeing today is very scary. AI can do that and even do that very well, like hyper and super well, right? So understand where the world is, understand where we are and what's happening. If you want to be relevant in the next 5 to 10 years, you have to start building the skills of the future now, right? That will make you indispensable, even in the school environment, because schools are going to need learning designers. Schools are going to need learning designers. There's a shift, right? And over time, it's going to become more and more pronounced, right? Schools are going to need learning designers, right? So the earlier you start evolving, the better it is for you. All right. So, Joy, I'm waiting for you. I'm waiting for you. We need to run. We have like 10 to 15 minutes more to wrap up this. All right. So, I'm doing a demo session with Joy. All right. I'm following her lead. All right. So, again, if you are joining for the first time, you can scan the QR code so that you can sign up on BayoGPT and you can experience how it works by yourself, right? Uh, every topic in every subject has a connection with a need in the society, right? And what BioGPT does as a tool is to show you how to do the connection, right? And of course, if you join the session late, I'm going to encourage you to please, all right, when we are done, try to listen from the beginning, all right? We've said a lot of things from the beginning that are very important to you, very important to your career, very important to your level, to your performance, very important to your relevance in the classroom, right? Please do well to listen to this session over again. It will help you, right? So, Joy, I'm waiting for you. What skills are you looking at? Yeah, Joy, I'm waiting for you. What skills are you looking at? What skills? What skills? What skills? A lot of them: analytical thinking, creative thinking, emotional intelligence, agility. Okay, that's fine. If you ask me to choose, right? Uh, let me go for creative thinking. Let me go for leadership, and let me go for communication. Right. All right. Next step. All right. So let's create the design. So let's see what BioGPT is going to generate, right, for this particular topic. It is for year two learners, right, and it's about creative writing, right, and then we want them to build communication skills, creative thinking skills, right, and leadership skills as they learn through the journey, right. So let's see what BioGPT is going to come up with in that regard, and let's see how the connection happens. Let's see, right, what we have here. All right. I mean, again, for everyone that has joined the session, oh, I see. I see. I understand that. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can zoom in fully. Let me see if I can do that. I think I can. Enter full screen. Let me see. Yeah. I just tried to. I hope it shows on your end. I just tried to. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I hope you can. I just hope you can see the text better now. But I've tried to like zoom in for a better view. All right. So here's what we have here. So it says, how can we become story keepers and creators in our community by writing about the exciting books we read? and the lessons they teach us, right? How can we become story keepers and creators in our community? By writing about the exciting books we read and the lessons they teach us. Remember the skills we went for: communication skills, creativity skills, and leadership, right? So I selected those three skills, and you can already see the impact of those skills, right, on the driving question behind the learning experience, right? So what BioGPT does as a design tool is that it designs the whole experience for you, and it starts with a storyline and a driving question. A storyline and a driving question, right? The storyline does the job, right, of bringing the topic alive in the real world environment. So see the storyline here. In many African communities, elders share wisdom through captivating stories. But these precious tales often risk being forgotten if they aren't written down. Can you see that? Imagine if young people could help preserve these stories and share their own new perspectives by writing about books they love and the lessons they learn. This is powerful. This is powerful. All right. So you see, every topic in every subject has a connection with a need in this, with a need or a problem in the society. See the way it brings this problem, and then is trying to position these little kids, right, to solve the problem. It says elders share wisdom through captivating stories, but these precious tales often risk being forgotten, which is true. And if they aren't written down, if they are written down, imagine if young people could help preserve these stories and share their own new perspective. So I'm seeing right here that at the end of this learning experience, these kids are going to write a book, right? In whatever form. It doesn't matter what it looks like, right? Whether the book is going to be layers of cardboards upon whether it's going to be created by cardboard and it's going to be layered in very neat. I mean, the fact is that these kids are on a problem-solving trajectory, right? They are solving a problem, and they are the outcome of the learning experience, right? Is something tangible. So the whole learning experience is about solving a problem in the society, and this is where we need to be in Africa, right? That what happens in our schools, right? That the whole learning experience, that the learning outcomes is not just intellectual and just cognitive, but that it is tangible, tangible learning experiences, right? Tangible learning outcomes that have real impact on society, right? We need to reduce the gap between learning and impact in Africa. This is very critical. We need to reduce the gap between learning and impact. If you can hear me, if you are still connected, can you please type in the chat section impact, impact, or no, no, don't type impact, type tangible learning outcomes. Please, if you can hear me, type tangible learning outcomes. Please type tangible learning outcomes. Right? If you can hear me, please type in the chat section tangible learning outcomes. Tangible, tangible learning outcomes. Right? Let me see those that are still following. Please type tangible learning outcomes. Right? So that's what happens. Right? So BioGPT says that before you start at all, right, how to teach is to first establish the connection. That's what BioGPT says. BioGPT says that you need to bring storytelling into how you teach. BioGPT says that with a story, you can connect the topic with a need or a problem in the society, right? And when, yeah, thank you, Joy. Tangible learning outcomes. That's what so BioGPT says that you have to think about connection, right? We have to think about connection and then see the driving question: how can we become story keepers and creators in our community? By writing about the exciting books we read and the lessons they teach us, right? So I'm already seeing how at the end these kids are going to create artifacts, right, in their smallest way in the possible. They're going to create artifacts where they are documenting and putting this together, right? It is tangible. Let's start from primary two, from primary one, from year one, year two. Tangible learning outcomes, right? And that's what we're seeing, right? So, as a teacher, how you are thinking about the learning is different, because from the start point, you are asking a question, and the learning experience is all about answering that question. Yes, yes. It's about answering that question. So, how will the learning experience for the answer that question, right? And so, the next thing you see here, you see how BioGPT breaks it down, right? See the time allocation allows to break, right? So it says students will contribute written summaries. Students will contribute written summaries, reviews, and retelling of books they have read, collectively building a class story treasury. Can you see that? A class story treasury that celebrates reading, diverse narratives, and the power of individual voices within the community over several weeks. So you will see two tracks here, track A and track B. Now, track A, it's about attending to the traditional things, right? So, what are the things that you need to know traditionally? What are fundamental? If you are thinking about Bloom's taxonomy, the level one, level two, all right, and level three. What are those things that they need to know, that they need to have, right? Track A takes care of that. Takes care of that, right? It takes care of that, right? And then from track A, right, they are going to then move in. So you see, BioGPT does not ignore the fact that they need to understand concept. They need to, right? Track A takes care of that, right? So students will be able to identify the main character of a short story. Students will be able to identify one key event that happens in a short story, right? So again, depending on the scheme of work, the things you are supposed to touch, right? So track A takes care of that. Now beyond that, I am more interested in track B. So see what happens in track B, right? Which is where the problem solving comes in. It says limited access to diverse children literature, promoting a culture of reading within the community, and encouraging young voices to share and preserve stories they encounter, right? And what's the task? Today, learners will begin to envision how they will write about a book I read. Remember, Joy, the topic you gave me was a book I read. Can you see how it fits in now? Right? They will begin to envision how they will write about a book I read by focusing on an exciting part and practicing how to articulate that excitement to a peer. Awesome, awesome. And what are the deliverables? One drawing of their favorite sparkle moment from a book they read, one exciting word or short phrase describing their sparkle moment, and verbal summary of partner's favorite part. That's their deliverables, right? And what does their homework look like? The homework is that they need to talk to an older family member, neighbor, or community elder. Ask them about a story they loved when they were your age, or a traditional story they know. Listen carefully and remember one exciting part to share tomorrow. So this is homework. We need to change what we call homework in the K-12 space today, right? When kids leave the school environment, right, that is the only opportunity they have a raw connection with the society, to have another, right? To have another, that's another opportunity they have to connect to their society. And we need to maximize that opportunity, right? So see what an homework looks like, right? Still in line with the topic, a book I read, right? Still in line with the topic, a book I read. You're gonna talk to an older family member, neighbor, or community leader. Remember, part of the skills we want them to build is communication, right? Can you see how that ties in? Because in doing this, they are building their communication skills, right? So every part of this design is intentional, is intentional, is intentional, is intentional. We need to go back to the drawing table. Teachers, we need to start with design. It is design first. We need to pay attention to design. And that's why we created this tool as a creative guide to support teachers in the design phase. Teachers need a lot of creative support in the design phase, right? Teachers need a lot of creative input in the design phase, right? And this is one of the tools that helps you, right, in that creative work, right, in the design phase, right? Because it is the design, the quality of the design that shows, right, and the quality of the content and even the learning experience. Teachers rarely have time for quality design, right? And this is a tool that helps you in that regard, right? So that's what we're saying, right? And then some other things, the assessment, the feedback, and stuff like that, right? There's an additional instructional resource. Why the art of African storytelling matters in an age of digital disruption. This is an article, right? For you as a teacher, that you can also leverage, right? To enrich. I talked about context mastery I talked about content augmentation, right? This is an article that you can use, right, to help you in the design process as well, right? And that's what BioGPT is all about, right? You see the flow from the storyline to the driving question, and you are seeing the skills alignment, the skills we selected earlier, how they are showing in the design, right? In the activities that the learners are going to be, I'm working on, right? And you see the outcome. The outcome of the learning experience is a story treasury. It is a tangible learning outcome, a TLO, a tangible learning outcome, right? That is where education must be in Africa. That is where learning must be in Africa, right? Because we are a pipeline. K-12 is a pipeline. We need to start training our kids, our learners, how to solve problems in the society. And this is how it happens. It happens from our learning designs. And that's why we don't like to call it lesson plan. We like to call it learning design. It starts from our learning design, right? From our learning design, all right? If you are there and you can see me, can you please type in the chat section, design first, right? Please type in the chat section, design first, design first. Please type in the chat section, design first, design first, design first. Please type in the chat section, design first, design first. Dear teacher, you need to become a learning designer. You need to evolve. You need to become a learning designer. If you're going to be relevant in the classroom, right, you need to become a learning designer, right? Okay. Um, yeah, yeah, design first. The calling for teachers in this era is to become learning designers. You have to become a learning designer for you to be effective in the classroom today. You have to become a learning designer. And this is where we begin to call it a wrap for today. I do hope that this inspires you. I do hope that this challenges you, right? To rethink your role, to rethink who you are, right? In this era, everything is changing, right? Our classrooms are changing, our learners are changing, right? And so we need to be ready. Thank you, Joy. We have another Joy Unduku. Thank you. I see you, right? We have a responsibility to become, the right mentors in our classrooms for our learners. But remember that you have to invest in your context mastery. You have to invest in your context mastery. You have to invest in your context mastery. That way, you are able to always offer that connection, right? And of course, a tool like BioGPT also helps you, right? Empowers you, right? To stay on that frequency, right? For you to stay creative, for you to stay on that frequency, a tool like BioGPT empowers you. It is a creative guide. We intentionally created it because, you know, before ChatGPT came, the question is, what were the major challenges that we had in the school environment, right? Yeah, one of it was workload, one hand, but another challenge that we had in the school environment is what I call the creativity gap. The creativity gap, right? If you go to industries like Nollywood and all this entertainment industry, you wonder why people can sit down for 2 hours. They are watching a movie and they are not talking about attention span. If you get what I'm talking about, people can watch season movies and they are not talking about attention span. When it comes to teaching and learning in the classroom, we start hearing about attention span. The question is, what is going on? What is going on? Right? So there is a dimension of creativity that they have in the entertainment space that we need to have in the K to 12 space so that we can design learning experiences that our learners can sit with, can stay with, that they can run with. It's very possible. And this is how it happens. If you want to see engagement, connect people to their society, right? And that was how we started by talking about social media and the fact that we are social beings, right? When you watch Nollywood, and all they are doing is they are trying to connect us with things that are happening around, stories, trying to connect us with things that are happening through storytelling and things like that, right? We need a version of that in our classrooms. If you are able to create learning experiences, if you're able to design learning experiences that can connect your learners with the society, right, you will get them in the loop. You will get them in the zone. And that's what we're saying, right? So that our classrooms doesn't lose value, right? For us to keep the sanctity, for us to keep the value of our classroom, then we need to evolve in what our classroom looks like, right? So we saw that creativity gap. And for us, it's like, how do we solve this problem at scale? How do we solve this creativity problem, right? In the K-12 space. And that was how we came up with this to BayoGPT to solve that problem by supporting teachers in bridging that creativity gap. Because as you use it over and over and over again, it begins to rub on you, right? Through resonance. You also start thinking that way. You begin to get used to the environment. And that's how gradually, you get better at it, right? So again, just to encourage you to please scan the QR code on the screen, sign up on BayoGPT, or you can just use visit biogpt.org. You can sign up right there. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Michael, for joining the session. Thank you, Joy Raphael, for joining the session. Thank you, Joy Unduku, for joining the session. Please, one thing I'd like to ask you to do for us is you can please share your experience on LinkedIn, right? Share your experience and tag me. If you learned something, if you were inspired, please share your experience, right? That's one thing. That's how you can help us. That's how you can help us grow and help us to reach more teachers like yourself, right? Please share your experience on LinkedIn, and you can please tag me at the Bio Alomaja Bio GPT. I'll be looking forward to that. Right. So thank you for your time. Thank you for joining this session. I mean, everyone that joined, I want to humbly ask that you please share your experience on LinkedIn. If you learned something, if you were inspired, please share your experience on LinkedIn, right? And let's connect. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for your time. This is a bi-weekly workshop, right? Every 2 weeks, right? So by next 2 weeks, again, we are gathered here and we are doing more design. We are doing more design. We're doing more design, right? Thank you, everyone, and thank you for your time, right? Till I come your way again next 2 weeks. Bye for now. Have a lovely weekend.